sorry guys, I already had this pulled apart. I didn't think I'd be working on this. Then it hit me, I should be making a video with this. Okay, so basically my bike would turn over and it would try to start. It would run for a little bit and then it would die. Now I had this not too long ago on the fuel pump right here, which I did a video on already on how to replace that. Now it's supposed to run. It's a clicking sound until the pressure gets up to a factory preset level and then it shuts off. The bike would start again. It took a while to get it to start, but it would start and it would run rough and then shut off. And I thought, oh crap, what the heck's the problem? So what I decided to do, and I'm sorry I'm not showing it to you, I'm just kind of doing an after the fact since I already worked on it. My fuel filter's in here. I put this in a while back, and unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but it's in two different pieces and it screws together. Guys, if you get this filter, it's awesome, but just make sure that you do what I guess I did not do and grab a hold of both sides of this filter and actually screw it to make sure it's really, really tight. Mine somehow was loose and I couldn't get a vacuum. I pulled this back to try to have a look at the fuel that you can see now, and I had nothing. I had nothing in it. It was completely dry. I thought maybe it was one of the hoses, so I took this off. There's a nipple here that goes directly to the tank, and I had, of course, the other side, this rubber hose. I put some compressed air in here into the tank, and it blew right through, so there was no clog there. I went to blow air through here, expecting it to make its way up through, and here it come out of the carburetors, and all the air was coming out here. So I pulled this out, tightened this up a full 360 degrees so these lined up again, and put it back in. As soon as I turned the bike on, you heard the clicking, and the filter filled with fluid. So, needless to say, I went to start it. She started right up. That's all it was. So, it ended up being something that I guess I did when I replaced the filter, not making sure that it was completely screwed down. They sell these everywhere. A lot of them in two places, unless you get the bonded plastic one, which I don't like because I took the other one apart when I did this before, and it was disintegrating, and I didn't like that, so I went with this one here. I do like it, just make sure it's really tight. Anyway, while I was taking it off, I made a little pinhole in part of the tubing in here, so I cut off about a 1/4 inch, and it still gave me plenty to be able to put back on here, so that was fine. So no leaks, it runs great. I wish I could put it together and take it for a ride, except I'm recharging the K&N air filter. So of course you get these little kits. It comes with a nice degreaser you spray on. Let it sit overnight because it's got to be completely bone dry, and then you spray on the new oil. And I usually let that sit and drain and then wipe off any excess and then pop it right in. My bike loves this because it gives me more airflow. And the filter itself is right here, and it's drying basically. So I'm gonna let it sit out here at an angle. Let's just go ahead and drain for a bit, and then bring it in the garage to let it sit overnight, completely dry, and we'll retreat it tomorrow and put the bike back together. So at least I can take you through that. My bike's a little bit different because number one, I have saddlebags, and of course I got K&N all over this in case I ever brought it in for any reason, or I ended up going in and somebody thought, oh, I might as well replace the filter. No, these K&Ns are a fortune, man. So that's why I put the stickers and stuff on here. I also take this apart every now and then, open this up and give it a good clean, because you do get a little bit of dust that builds up in there, and you just don't need that. Even though the K&N would filter it, and I just give it a clean every now and then. So this is my Corbin seat set up. That's off. It comes with the little, the little luggage thing on the back there. And again, that'll probably just stay right there overnight. And then I can get the Vmax back together tomorrow. I did have it on a charger because I was trying to start it. That's what that cord is you see hanging down there. I had a charger and stuff on there, kind of like a jump charger, so I could actually crank it, pull a few amps while I was trying to start this. I could not figure out what in the heck was going on. But anyway, that's all it was. The other thing you guys know, God, it's such a pain in the butt too. You have to take all this apart when you replace the battery underneath. It's kind of a pain. I don't know why they don't make it easier for you, but they don't. This particular bike, I love it, but everything's buried no matter what you do. I gotta admit, the fuel pump itself wasn't too bad. So I even took this off not too long ago. Took it out, and that's when I changed all the coolant that was in there. Gave this a good scrub on the inside before I put it back in. That never hurts. Put it all back together. I always make sure this is completely clean anytime I work with the filter, so that when I do put it back in, everything is spotless. There's no extra dust floating around in there. I did run it, and down each one of these throats, I did spray some carb cleaner, and you could just hear the bike liking it, because it's been a while since I've done that. And everything gets cleaned out, and at the same time, you could hear the idle was actually picked up a bit, so the jets got their blast and everything. I always run fuel treatments and stuff in the tank. That's my favorite fuel treatment right there. I squirt a little bit of that in, but still, no matter what you do, it does build up over time, and using some sort of carbon choke cleaner, it doesn't hurt. So that's it, guys. I will wait until I put the bike back together tomorrow, and I'll just kind of show you that, and then we'll go ahead and take it from there. Sorry I missed the teardown. Like I said, I did not expect this to happen today, and I wasn't ready with the camera. Okay, day 2. Looks like the filter is nice and clean and dry. It's all white. It should be kind of a pinkish red. Now we're going to go ahead and apply this air filter oil. Kind of spray that on, and then you let it soak in. I'm not going to take the camera out there and let you see me spray it. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. But you spray it on, you let it soak in. Wait a few minutes, come back and grab a rag or something like that, paper towel, just wipe off any excess. So let me go ahead and give this a spray, and then you guys will see what it looks like when it's done. Okay, we wiped off the excess. This is basically what it looks like when it's been retreated. This oil is burnable, and of course there's no mass airflow sensors in the bikes. I have a mass airflow sensor in my FJ, and it has no problem with this K&N. However, in the Saab, it has kind of like a dual series type of mass airflow sensor setup, and I used to have to keep taking it out and giving it a clean. It didn't like the K&N, so we ended up going back to factory filters on that. Again, I love it for the FJ, never change it. I've got a K&N on this one and on this bike here. And they're just the greatest things because they allow just a bit more air, better filtration, and the oil, of course, allows the dirt and everything to stick to it. You just have to service it. I don't have a whole lot of miles, so I don't go by mileage and stuff. But every year, I go ahead and pull the K&N air filter out and degrease it and go ahead and do that because with the air going through it, but somehow the grease does disappear. The oil disappears after a while. So anyway, let me go ahead and get this wiped up just a little bit more, get it in place, and then start putting the Vmax back together. Alright, basically sits like this. This particular model here might be a little bit different than yours if you have an older Vmax of the first generation. So there's basically just a screw hole there. There's an indentation there that mates up with this little funnel with extra air. And you just take your time. You can tell when it's in place. Plus there's a ridge down there that the edge of the filter basically goes up against. So that's it. Let me go ahead and get the cover on here, and we'll take it from there. One of the things I ran into are these screws here that basically are supposed to be for all of the cover of the airbox, including here, which is where these little clips go under. You'll see they stripped out, so I just happen to have some spare screws that were a bit bigger, not too big though, and with a coarser thread, and use those in just these two areas here. So since it is plastic, if you strip it out, no worries, you can usually try to find a screw that's just a bit bigger than the one that came out, and that usually does the trick without any problems. So let's go ahead and get this back on. So I need to tighten these down. So we have these 6 screws in here. Those are stock. Again, these are slightly oversized. Guys, one of the things to do, I know it's a lot easier just to grab a screw gun and do that, but it is plastic. There are some nut certs in here, but they're brass. Everything is pretty delicate, so just stick with the old-fashioned way and use a regular screwdriver when you're doing this. Try to avoid being in a big rush. Maybe taking them out, it's not that bad. There again, if you don't give enough tension, you'll strip the heads out. So a lot of this stuff is just easier and better, and give you less problems if you just use a regular screwdriver. So I'll get these tightened down. Those other screws, of course, will be for here. Pull that up into place and get that screw in. And then we'll talk a little bit about down in here. So the 6 screws are in. I kind of use a star pattern because you are seating it on top of the filter, other than going to one side and then just making your way back. So a star pattern works good. I would usually do it till they're just snug. After they're snug, I go ahead and use the old manual torque wrench, the old good and tight, and basically just give these one little bit of a twist. Not too much, you don't want to strip them out. And because the bike does have a lot of vibration, like most motorcycles do, it doesn't hurt when you're in here to check the screws that are already in here just to make sure they're tight. All 5 of these needed just a little bit of tightening, so it happens. Not to mention, it heats and cools, expands and contracts, and that causes these to loosen up a bit too. So I'll get the oversized screws in here and get these breather hoses mounted. And of course, before we put it together, we'll give the bike a start, make sure everything's good. There's nothing worse than putting it all together and then realizing you still have a problem. Okay, these are tight. They'll seem like they're too short, but you just kind of pull them a little bit into position and then throw your screws in there. So again, we talked about this, the fuel pump under here, the battery. Back here, the 2 loads I had to put in because I did put some rear LEDs and stuff back in here because they're brighter. And people behind you, needless to say, you want to always be able to have them see you. I also just tapped into the wiring for the brake light to go ahead and do this repeater. That's on another video. So now we'll just give it a start and make sure everything's good. And if it is, we'll put it back together and maybe we'll take it for a ride. So the bike's all set and put it back together, and it's actually early enough in the day where I'm going to go ahead and take it for a ride. Anyway guys, that's it. I'll go ahead and get this on YouTube again. I apologize for not having the camera ready when I was taking it apart. But there again, tank comes off, seat comes off. If you have bags, they come off. It exposes everything. We talked about the air filter, and I showed you everything I knew about the fuel filter. But that's about it. Anyway, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe, like, get a little bell notification for future content, and I'll get this on YouTube just as quickly as I can. Happy holidays, guys.